Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this fantastic new session. Well, I mean, why we say it's new because it's the first time we're hosting a session based on selling online. We got introduced to Chris, who's an expert. He's a member of Park Royal in a business group, and he has the distinction, I think, of having a bestseller on Amazon, right, which is quite rare. So I think he knows his stuff. And I'm sure you're going to get a lot out of it. Chris, I'll be handing over to Chris in a minute. But what I want to add is he is willing to offer every one of you a 15 minutes free consultation on what you want to do, where you are now with Amazon, with your online presence, and how we can help you to improve that. We will be sending out a Calendly link along with the webinar recording, hopefully tomorrow. So feel free to contact Chris. And once again, please put up your cameras and your sound. We will have an opportunity to put them back on again at the end of the presentation. We're going to be opening up the floor, taking lots of questions. This is also a very interactive session, so keep your fingers ready to enter a lot of polls and questions on chat. And on that note, I'll hand over to you, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nazar. Thank you to everyone else who's joining us today as well. Really appreciate you taking time from your day and also from a particularly sunny day to join this presentation live. Very, very much appreciated. And of course, to Nazar, you and your team at Brandon Business Support and also the ecosystem partners that we've got as well. So thanks to all of you for this opportunity to present today. So the topic of today is e-commerce, very, very specifically Amazon. Of course, this has been a trend over 20, 25 years, but also just an explosion in opportunity to expand products, brand products, launch products, and so on online over the last year and a half or so. I'd like to share with you today sort of an Amazon 101 about my experiences over the last number of years, but also there's going to be a very heavy focus on just keeping your eyes open as to what is actually required and some of the pitfalls that you could foresee when you do move online or when you do move products from one online channel to another, be it Amazon or others. There are a lot of gurus out there who talk about making $1 million a day from the beach starting tomorrow once you've opened your Amazon account. We've got the great beach weather now, but I'm not entirely convinced that things are as easy as these gurus profess. We have certainly run into a number of issues over our time selling on Amazon, and I'll share with you just some of those today. So it's really a presentation about talking about the opportunities that will exist, but also, again, eyes wide open and making sure that you're really prepared to jump in and deal with whatever the e-commerce world will throw at you. So our presentation is going to be something like the following. So over the next hour, and I'll ask Nazar, as I mentioned earlier, I'm very, very passionate about the topic. So I'll ask Nazar just to give me a heads up as we're getting to 12 o'clock type of thing. We'll be talking about, I'll do a basic introduction of myself, some of the key players out there in the e-commerce world. I'll attempt to make a case for migrating to sell on Amazon or expanding your range on Amazon if you're already there. Talking about some of the things that can go wrong, what you need to do, and then we'll turn back over to Nazar for future Park Royal workshops and also to both of us for any Q&A. Now, who am I? So I'm founder and owner of a London-based company called eBooster Limited, trading as seller help. You can probably tell from my accent that I'm not from here, but I've been here for about 20 years. My life started in Canada in 1994, actually, selling my professional life, that is, selling on the internet. And back in those days, if you were doing anything on the internet, you were doing everything. You were teaching, you were doing consulting, you were building web pages, you were doing a whole bunch of things. but also you were going around to the banks and asking for merchant numbers for your clients who had a website. The bank would turn around and say, a what? Yes, we have a client that has a website. They're selling their product on the internet. On the where? You can imagine how frustrating that was. We had to build the entire end-to-end system for our clients to be able to represent their products online, charge customers credit cards at a distance online, make sure the banks were happy with that, ship out products, et cetera, et cetera. Well, fast forward to today, and it is much, much easier. It's not perfectly easy. There are a lot of pitfalls, but it is much, much easier. Indeed, we've been selling on Amazon now for about the last 6 years, and over that time, we tend to do about 100,000 orders a year. That's been up in certain products over the last year, down in other products over the last year. But we sell in 10 different marketplaces, 10 different countries around the world. And we've got a proven track record of 5-star ratings, well over 7,000 reviews. So that's great. Absolutely strong proponent of being able to sell on Amazon. But Amazon aren't the only ones. I've got this slide here that I separate as titans, giants, and emerging players. So we've got a lot of big known companies out there. We've got Amazon, we've got Alibaba, Google, Shopping, Wish, eBay. I'm sure you're absolutely familiar with these names, and there are dozens more of these marketplaces that are not listed on these slides. Now, just a definition of words, I'm using marketplace and platform interchangeably. I really shouldn't. A platform will be someone like an Amazon or like an eBay or like Facebook Marketplace. A marketplace is generally, in the Amazon definition, certainly, it tends to be a country. So you have an Amazon Marketplace in the UK, an Amazon Marketplace in Germany, an Amazon Marketplace in Japan, and so on and so forth. There are a number of emerging players. So many of you might know a company called The Range, or you might be familiar with Decathlon. These companies are providing marketplaces, platforms, which will allow third-party organizations, so companies like myself, to be able to sell our products on their marketplace, on their platform. Okay, so I'm using, again, those two words interchangeably. Now, what I'm finding in the e-commerce world, particularly over these last 6 years, is that really you have Amazon and everyone else. Amazon, despite all the headaches and problems and challenges that we've been experiencing, that some of those I'll be sharing with you during the course of this presentation, are so far ahead in terms of market leadership and in terms of facilitating the seller journey that they leave everyone else behind. But it's a good idea to know about these other players and balance your e-commerce experience accordingly. Okay. I have a few interactive questions that I'm going to pose to you periodically through this presentation. So after that kind of short introduction, I would just like to hear from you in chat. And Nazir, if there's anything interesting, any questions that come up, please field them to me or save them to the end. What other marketplaces or indeed platforms have you, the audience, attracted you? I mean, are you selling in some platforms and not in others? Are you selling in some countries but not in others? Are you already on Amazon in the UK and you want to expand out to Europe or North America? Maybe if we just take a minute for you to add your comments in chat, please. Nazar, how's that looking?
Right, I've got a question. A comment here. I tried to sell on Shopify and got 4 sales over 6 months, and then she says I gave up. That's Nicola. Yeah, Nicola Gorn. So.
Okay, Nicola, we can talk about that offline a little bit later, but fundamentally, I very much understand your pain. One of the reasons why I like Amazon is because they attract traffic, and we'll get to the Amazon Universe slide in actually just a second. But for now, let me say they attract a huge amount of traffic. You can liken this to, if you're on Google, you're probably there to research, and you might buy from a Shopify site from one of the other marketplaces. If you're on Amazon, you're probably there to buy in the first place. So one of the big issues with having your own Shopify, your own website, your own platform that you're trying to sell on is you have to generate the traffic, and that's really, really tough. And I'd love to chat with you offline about your experience with that, and what you found has worked and what didn't, and if you could track those sales back to specific actions that you've taken.
Chris, one more question before we move on. Arban has said that she has an Amazon seller's account in the UK and US, but has had a problem with her product, so has temporarily ceased trading.
Okay. Again, let's have an offline conversation, but I'm going to make some assumptions here. The product is potentially complicated in terms of maybe ingredients, or maybe it has a battery issue, or maybe it's got to have some sort of compliance or something like that, compliance check. And I'm guessing that maybe Amazon have thrown at you some sort of issue where you need to respond to that, where you need to clarify something for Amazon, provide the right documentation, that sort of thing. Would it be worth having a follow-up conversation about that? I'm going to move on to the next slide, but I'd like to pick that up with you. Okay, so we're now looking at this slide here, which is the Amazon universe. Now, we've all probably engaged with Amazon in some way, shape, or form. You can see this kind of mind map here with the A, with the Amazon smile right in the middle, that orange circle. But you've got fashion, you've got food and fresh, you've got other meals and so on and so forth. You've probably got Amazon Prime, Amazon Web Services. A lot of companies use those to store data in the cloud, et cetera, et cetera. Amazon is huge, absolutely huge. So when you're selling on Amazon, you're probably selling in one of a handful of these different bubbles. My experience in my conversation with you today is going to be around something called Amazon Seller Central. So that's really that bit in the middle there, that orange circle with the A in the middle. There is something called Amazon Vendor Central. There is something called Amazon Merch by Amazon, which is effectively print-on-demand T-shirts and iPhone covers and that sort of thing. But our conversation today is really going to be about Amazon Seller Central, where there are tens of thousands of sellers in each one of these different marketplaces that are all supplying product to Amazon customers. So just to reiterate something that we said earlier, we feel that we're doing something right. I'm not too worried about the detail of the text here, but I think you can see the consistent 5-star ratings here and the 100% positive ratings that we are getting. A lot of gurus out there are going to say, well, try this and you can get sudden success on Amazon. Our approach is very much slow and steady wins the race. Do things in a compliant way. Don't go in for black hat techniques or gray hat techniques. Always comply with Amazon. Always make sure the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. And over time, that will show success on Amazon. It's a very different beast to understand. So sometimes you get these help files or seller support messages that come out at you, and there's a lot of interpretation behind that. So again, it's a lot of trial and error to try to figure out exactly what's going on and what is it that Amazon is actually looking for. Having said that, there are a lot of dials and levers that you can be adjusting and pressing and working with in order to be able to put things in your favor. So this was a recent screenshot I took out of our account. Under Manage Inventory, we have something there that shows the number of products that we've got listed, and at the time of the screenshot, it was 1,748 products. Some are seasonal, so some sell particularly well in the summer, some in the winter. Some are, maybe for a short burst of time. Like if we had the rights to sell Olympic branded product, then maybe that would be successful only for a period of a few weeks or the rest of the year, and then it wouldn't be of interest next year. So it all depends on what it is that you want to sell. You don't absolutely need to have 1,700 products. I've seen organizations with 30,000 products. I've seen organizations with 3 products. So a lot of it is going to be a case-by-case scenario on what works for you, what rights you have to resell product, what you've manufactured, the quantities that you have, and so on and so forth. But there is a lot in your control. I'm going to gloss through this pretty quickly, as I think we've covered a couple of these points already. I want to look specifically at point number 4. Amazon has many rules and regulations regarding customer privacy, taxation, intellectual property, and now, of course, we have Brexit issues in UK trading as a third country. Big one there is that if you're experienced in trading with the EU when we were still part of the EU, there is a whole range of new issues that we now need to deal with in terms of getting product into EU marketplaces, VAT, compliance with EU regulations as the UK starts diverging from EU law, so on and so forth. But if you persevere, you're going to get it right. Now, next question here, just a quick one for you, is could I get an idea of how big your organization is? Selling on Amazon works for a variety of companies. We've had some micro businesses come and join us as clients, and we've also had some large SMEs, 20, 30 million pound companies, and we're in discussion now with a couple of enterprises as well. So I'd just be quite keen to get a sense for who's on the call today and how big your organizations are. And Nazar, perhaps you could give me a summary when you get some stats there.
Well, we've got a few sole traders. I know from previous experience, we've got a few micro businesses. We have a few SMEs as well. I'm not sure we have any large SMEs or enterprise. And apart from you, I don't know who else is joining us from Amazon.
Great, fantastic. Thank you. So let's talk about the case for migrating to Amazon. I'd like to use, of course, being Canadian, I absolutely have to do the stereotypical thing and use maple syrup as one of our examples. This is a Canadian/British company that came to us about 5 years ago, and they wanted to launch their product on Amazon. There are a couple of reasons for this. The company itself has an excellent product. You can see the bottle is absolutely beautiful. I actually took this with me to Italy a few years ago and couldn't resist in Milan just having the sunlight coming through the bottle and taking that picture. But as you can see on the left, there's a Great Taste Awards logo on this. So this will show you that the product is absolutely top range, and the price point is top range as well for this particular product. They were selling well. They're an SME. They had stock of Canadian maple syrup here in the UK, and they were selling through their own channels, through their own website, through social media, through B2B. But they really wanted to get market awareness, brand awareness out there. So they came to us and they asked for our help in getting them launched on Amazon. I think, Nazar, this is the product that you were alluding to earlier. We got them listed in the grocery category. At the time, grocery had something like 800,000 different products. So there were at least 2,000 different maple syrup related products out there, maple fudge and cookies and maple syrups and so on, as well as all the other things in groceries, soaps and tinned goods and so on and so forth. Out of those 800,000, within about a month, we got them listed at something like 500. So that's less than 0.01% of products in the grocery category were more popular than theirs. So we're at 99.99% popularity, something like that. It was a huge opportunity for them. That got their name out there. The products were selling very, very frequently, and it got the attraction of buyers in other organizations, the Harrods of the world, the Fortnum & Masons of the world, et cetera, et cetera. So, that decision to go onto Amazon, taking the risk to be an exceptionally high quality product with a compatible price point actually worked out really well for them, because there are so many new opportunities that have evolved, include increasing their product range as a result of the last 5 years. And that's a relationship that continues to this day. So that is one potential benefit of going onto Amazon. Let me ask you about your products. Do you have existing product range that you want to introduce to an online marketplace, or indeed expand? Are you selling on Shopify and want to go to Amazon? Do you have a new product that you want to launch? Or do you represent someone else's product? Or maybe there's some combination of all three. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Come on, folks, put something in the chat. Aman says wants to launch the first product. Jo says she wants to launch the book.
Okay.
We're launching chocolates.
Okay.
Okay, can you put yourself on silent and put it on chat, please? Okay, but we heard you in loud and clear. Many thanks. Chocolate, yes.
Great. Okay, so I'd love to have an offline conversation with you on chocolate. We do work with a couple of SMEs who are looking at selling chocolate in the EU, and we have a body of knowledge around that. It's not easy, but if you're looking just at the UK marketplace, then you know, we'd be certainly happy to have a conversation and see if there's any tips and tricks and new opportunities for you to explore on Amazon itself.
Doris says a new nursery.
Now that's interesting. Okay, a nursery but can you tell me more? Is that a service or is it what do you mean by nursery? Is it a physical product?
Childcare nursery.
So that would be an actual service, right?
I mean, I guess so.
Yeah. Okay. Again, let's have an offline conversation about that. That would be tricky. So services in the United States, Amazon do have an ability to represent different services and trades and professional services and so on and so forth. But I don't think that that is expanded here to Europe just yet.
We got one more. We got a gluten-free sweet baked goods. I set up an account with Amazon, but could not upload our products as it required authorization from Amazon.
So are these your products or are you representing a third party?
Okay. I mean, that could be a rhetorical sort of a question at this stage. Steve, if you could build on that, please, Chris, and then we move on.
Sure. Okay. Again, let's take that offline. Gluten-free.
Okay. He does say that we manufacture them in London.
Okay, that's near and dear to my heart because my daughter is celiac, so gluten-free is definitely something that you know, I'd love to chat with you about. But let's take that offline because food, the moment you so there are a range of easy products and tricky products, and we've dealt with everything. So going back to the maple syrup example, it's a tricky product because it's weighty. It is glass, so if it breaks, you've got some problems either in your own warehouse or in shipping or in the Amazon warehouse itself. And indeed, that sort of product, if it spills, it's sticky. So I don't know about your product, but that's just our experience with the maple syrup. The other issue there is if you ingest it, then Amazon rightfully, you know, foods and medicines and that sort of thing, they would rightfully ask you to go through additional hoops of clearance, which I'm sure you have, and it's just a question of supplying documentation to Amazon. But let's do it. So just going off, sorry, it's getting a bit of an echo on the line. There are three potential decisions that you can make at this point. One is do nothing, or a blue sky, or look at the Goldilocks zone. So legitimately, you can attend this webinar and say, Amazon isn't right for me, there are too many challenges, or it's not the right marketplace, or whatever. And that's completely fine. That's absolutely a perfectly acceptable business. Next one is that you can operate a blue sky approach, which is you're currently operating a B2B model. You want to go on Amazon, do B2C or direct to consumer, but you run the risk of alienating a B2B client base. And indeed, we had this conversation with one of our clients last year that represents a major global fashion brand here in Europe. They do about 20 million pounds a year in sales. They get stock from China in various, you know, cargo freight containers, repurpose those, and then send them off to the likes of Asda and TK Maxx and so on. They were very conscious about wanting to open an Amazon store, but not compromise the relationships that they'd had with their B2B clients, which frankly represented 90% of their business. So there are ways of approaching this, but it's got to be a delicate conversation. Or indeed, there's a Goldilocks zone. Keep your existing sales channels in place, migrate to Amazon, selling directly to consumers, and go for a middle ground by migrating only a portion of your sales to Amazon and having those relationships intact with your B2B client base. in such a way that won't compromise what it is that you're doing with them. So we've touched on this point before. It's easy to sell on Amazon. Well, yes, it is, because they make it so much easier than a lot of their competition. And I won't name names, but it's been a very, very frustrating journey when we have tried to get on to other marketplaces. But on the other hand, you get a lot of sellers out there, a lot of trainers out there who are really just pitching the fact that they're gurus, that they're specialist trainers, that they've got all these wonderful secrets, and don't actually walk the walk. They don't actually run into the same problems that you can expect by selling multiple orders a day, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of orders a year. We have seen things along the lines of compliance issues, hazardous materials, hazmat. So we have tried to sell these little fans, particularly topical in this weather that we've got. These little battery-powered things you can keep in your bag or knapsack or whatever. Flick a little switch and the fan comes out and starts blowing cool air at you. That has a battery in it. That's considered hazardous material. You've got to go through a few different hoops to get that listed on Amazon. So where we made mistakes in the past is that we would have committed to ordering a certain quantity of that, or maybe having it shipped in from China or some other manufacturer, wherever. And then you run into problems by trying to upload it to Amazon, and Amazon push back and say, no, we need this document or that document or whatever. CE marks, well, of course, that's changing with the UK trademark laws post-Brexit, but effectively we're talking about intellectual protection here. Safety documentation, so foods, cleaning supplies, children's toys, that sort of thing. You need to comply with all of these different rules. Don't forget, Amazon has a great customer-facing side, but there's a lot of friction with sellers because of the onus to provide intellectual property information to demonstrate that you actually own the product or you have the rights to sell the product that you want to represent on Amazon. And also their relationship with government all around taxation. I'm sure you can, you've heard in the press what's been going on there. So a lot of that responsibility is transferred to us. Amazon will assist. So if you go down to the 5th bullet point, VAT registrations in the UK and the EU, they've got relationships with specialist VAT accountants and so on and so forth. So we are now VAT registered in Germany and France and Spain and Italy and Poland and a number of other places. They'll do the calculations, then you just transfer the money to each appropriate government. But it takes time. All these people who come out and say, yes, you can register an account today and be selling tomorrow, that simply isn't the case. In a future slide, we're going to see that actually the VAT registration for Germany took 3 months. And that was pre-pandemic, pre-Brexit. So it's not always as easy as you say. You also have the risk of issues from other sellers. If you see this image that we've got, the listing on the right, this is one of our products that we had a bit of a problem with. Perfect Flags, Union Jack flag, 3 foot by 2 foot. Well, you look at that title and you say, well, these guys are selling a flag, a Union Jack flag, 3 feet long by 2 feet wide. Another seller came along and decided to compromise this listing. It's what they call a hijacker. And they have decided to put this completely different picture online. And they're saying, this is a mask with a completely different logo on it. So you can imagine the customer that only looks at the mask, expects to get a mask, and when they place the order, they receive it and they say, hey, this isn't a mask. This is a flag. We didn't want a flag, we wanted a mask. Who's at fault? Me, the seller, because evidently I stocked the wrong product in Amazon. That's not fair. How is that right? Some third-party seller has come to us, hijacked this listing, and decided to change it. And we have a couple of guys who are just looking at listings, and we've got some automated tools that we're using with 1,700 products. We're looking at these listings constantly and seeing what's changed, seeing what's developed, so that we can get on top of this and change it back to whatever it should be. But if the customer gives a negative seller rating, that hits me directly, and Amazon won't remove that. So again, all these dials and levers, all these things that we have to balance out and watch, it does take a lot of effort. It does take a lot of staff time just to be watching listings. we've covered briefly intellectual property issues, so I'm not going to repeat that here. There are other issues that we need to be looking at on Amazon, so data protection rights, and make sure that we're compliant with GDPR, and make sure that we can prove that we're handling Amazon customer information. So for example, in your Shopify store, you get a customer. That is your customer. In your Amazon store, customer that comes to you direct from Amazon, not from social media or someplace else. Maybe you might be running a campaign someplace else. But if the customer comes directly from Amazon, buys from you, that's not your customer, that's Amazon's customer. So what does that mean? You cannot ship a product and say, hey, I've sold you this, this blue cup. Would you be interested in buying the red cup? You can't do that. You cannot circumvent Amazon and get some sort of list of the customers and advertise to them through your email system, through your Aweber or GetResponse system or whatever. So there's just a lot of balancing that has to happen there, and you need to be very, very clear what you want to do on Amazon and how you want to approach the marketplace. Okay. Now, can I just get a sense from you? I've mentioned a few scary things around tax and intellectual property protection and data protection and so on. What is your expectation? What have you heard about selling on Amazon, and what are you hearing now? How is this adjusting your approach? Is this something that is increasing your interest because you're getting more confidence that Amazon is protecting you as a seller? Or is it something that's turning you away because, well, there's quite a lot there, and there's quite a lot of additional steps that maybe a smaller business might not have a department to look after, or the additional resource to look after? Maybe if you could share your thoughts in chat, please. Nazar, do you have any early comments there?
Yes, we do. We've got the first comment says, this is from Haban. If I can get the right product choice, I believe there is a great opportunity.
And I think you're absolutely right on that one. I mean, there's no stopping Amazon. I'd love to find a way to make a joke about Jeff Bezos's space trip yesterday, but they are going to the moon, and I think the only challenger there really is Alibaba. It's good to have a presence in many other marketplaces. So if you have sporting goods, maybe Decathlon. If you have housewares, then maybe the range. But really, Amazon is so far ahead. They're opening marketplaces all the time. And the really nice thing, I think I mentioned earlier in the conversation, that the biggest and most mature marketplace is definitely the United States. And as they trial new things there, drone delivery, for example, then once those trials are a success, then they will roll out those features worldwide. Right now, Australia is probably the least mature marketplace, okay? But my comment here is that once you get registered in one marketplace, depending on the type of registration you do, you'll have registration. If you start with UK, you'll automatically have EU, or potentially you'll have global. I've seen that happen to clients in both senses. So I've got a couple of clients who registered in the UK and now have access to sell in the EU. I've got others who have registered in the UK and have global access. But turning on the other marketplace is relatively straightforward. Once you do that, then it's largely consistent, and the issue becomes just getting stock into those other countries, into those other marketplaces. Other comments, Nazar?
More or less the same again. It says, I think it's a great opportunity to promote your products.
Great. Okay, thank you. Let's go to the next slide. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. This is a bit jargony and a bit technical, but one of the things that you do need to be looking at is your Inventory Performance Index, your IPI. This is something that Amazon introduced about 2 years ago. And it's if you're following any of the seller groups, the seller communities now, you're probably seeing a lot about storage. So when you sell on Amazon, you fundamentally have two options. One is fulfilled by Amazon, FBA, and the other one is merchant fulfilled. So fulfilled by Amazon means you take your stock and you send it into Amazon warehouses. Now, you don't have a specific place for your stock. So there's not like there's a Chris McNeil shelf or, well, aisle, I think, at this point. Your stock is scattered amongst a number of different warehouses. So our maple syrup is in a warehouse that handles food and is ready to clean up messes of broken glass and spilled sticky syrup. We have magnets and keychains and flags and this and that and the other, which are in other warehouses up and down the country. So we'll ship into a specific warehouse. It normally tends to be just outside of Birmingham. And then Amazon will distribute that stock to Scotland and into Wales and outside of London and so on. So that would answer why, you might be looking at a product that you want to buy, and maybe your friend in Birmingham is looking at exactly the same product. Depending where you are, depending where that friend is and that product is, Amazon could say, well, you might get the product today, your friend might get it tomorrow, just because of different shipping times between warehouses and all the logistics between warehouses. Okay. Now, as I say, you don't have a dedicated shelf space. So we have, for example, a flag. We sell the flags. We don't sell flag poles, but maybe there's another seller that will sell a flag pole. We might have a couple of our flags on one particular shelf, and right beside it, we'll have the other seller's product, a flag pole. Because Amazon, through their sophisticated algorithms, has found that customers want to buy a flag and a flag pole at the same time. So it's a lot faster to pick and pack those two items together rather than go chasing all over the warehouse to try to find the other item. Okay? Now, when our product is picked and stuck into that brown box, it's called an Amazon Smile box. So that sort of arrow thing is the Amazon Smile. When it's stuck into that box, Amazon will charge us to store the product, to pick the product, to pack it, so the cost of the packaging, the bag, the box, the paper insert, and so on, and also posting it out. And there's a rate card that you can download, and indeed, if you're interested, I can help you find that rate card. So you're able to then predict what percentage Amazon is going to take from your sale. You sell something for let's say £5. They're automatically going to take up to 15%. So there's a different rate structure depending on what category that you're sending it. But let's say 15%. And then they're going to take something further to pick and pack and post that product. That's on the FBA side. On the merchant fulfilled, the product is in your warehouse or in your front room or in your shed or wherever the case is. You're then responsible for picking it, packaging it, and sending it out. Now, my preference is FBA. It's always FBA because, first of all, I don't want to spend my life in the post office. I would much rather be having these conversations with you, okay? But also Amazon can get incredible economies of scale. And if there's something that goes wrong with the shipping, customer receives the wrong product, customer claims that they never received the product, whatever the case might be, Amazon will take the responsibility for that. If you ship a product, you have more control over that product. But if anything goes wrong, you take the responsibility. So those stars that I showed you before are seller ratings, largely because Amazon has been shipping out our product. Okay. Now, I referred to some problems that have been discussed with IPI scores and storage scores in various discussion groups in the last couple of months. Amazon has decided that because of the huge demand on e-commerce, and particularly their services over the last year and a half because of the pandemic, they have had to seriously and severely restrict the amount of storage space that they're giving to sellers. So 2 months ago, we had something like 20,000 units of capacity. And it's a bit funny because They measure according to units and also cubic foot. We have unlimited cubic foot, cubic meter storage, but we have limited unit storage, which is a bit odd because 20,000 keychains does not take the same amount of space as 20,000 refrigerators. Not sure why, but anyway. That 20,000 was restricted down to 15, 10, and now we're down to about 7. So what Amazon have been forcing all of their sellers in every single marketplace all around the world is to sell through that excess quantity quickly. That's caused a problem for us because we have some stock that just naturally sells very, very fast. And when we need to replenish it, we turn on the taps. Stock, 1,000 units will come in from China. We put that onto Amazon. There are other products which are seasonal, so we're not really expecting to sell them till Christmas or maybe early in the new year. That's just stuck in Amazon warehouses now. Maybe that was a bit of a mistake for us to put too much of that stock in, but it's there. So that's tying up a smaller amount of space that we've got, and we are not able to replenish because we've hit that maximum threshold. We're not able to replenish the faster selling goods. Okay, quite convoluted and really really stressful. The IPI score we are now having to manage because it's a measure of how quickly stock is going through. And if they've reduced our ability to replenish stock, then that hits our IPI score, meaning that they're saying, well, you're not selling stuff as quickly as you used to. And there's no one really to talk to and say and explain, well, yeah, but some of this is, for Christmas and some of it is seasonal. So there's a lot that's built on algorithms. So what do? You expand out to merchant fulfilled. So for the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've been going out and trying to learn how to structure my own warehouse in such a way that we're not sending crates or pallets of stock into Amazon anymore for them to break up and sell as individual units. We are now selling those individual units to customers and dealing with all those issues and the price calculations and staffing implications and, hey, social distancing and all this wonderful other stuff as well in order to be able to keep on going. So you're going to find this in your relationship with Amazon as well. Right, I hope that wasn't too detailed and jargony. So this slide, I think, summarizes the thinking about how you need to be prepared. Okay, I have worked in a lot of organizations, from shoestring startups to some of the world's largest organizations. So I've been employed by the NHS, by IBM, by Cisco Systems, and there's always a business case that needs to be developed if you're going to be doing something. You need to know why you want to do something. You can kick off opening up your accounts and go through that process. It takes a while to do the KYC, the Know Your Customers checks. Amazon effectively is behaving like a bank. They want to see your passport. They want to see proof of residence. They want to see a whole bunch of information. There's now video onboarding because there's been far too much fraud in terms of sellers setting up multiple accounts. You can't set up multiple accounts. You can only have one account unless you get Amazon's blessing to set up a second account for a very specific reason. Indeed, there's a lot of rogue bots that go through, and I think we've got a future slide that I'll be coming back to and talking about some of Amazon's rogue bots that will affect sellers who have done things right. You need to be prepared for this. You need to have a plan B. You need to have risk mitigation around here. So for example, third point here, it is essential that you deliver excellent and timely customer service. Amazon don't care if you're ill, if you're on holiday, if you're busy with too many other things. You've got to write a proposal or working with another client. If an Amazon customer has a question for you, you need to respond within 24 hours. They don't care if it's the weekend. They don't care if it's Christmas. They just don't care. You need to be able to respond. Okay. One of the risks around merchant fulfilled, of course, is I'm going to turn that off in the last 2 weeks before Christmas. I've heard too many horror stories about, you've spoiled little Billy's Christmas because that particular toy didn't get there on the 23rd of December. And I do not want to invite that risk in my world. So I'd rather have diminished sales rather than have the poor seller feedback that comes back. Next bullet point here. We have to deal with often frustrating and lengthy correspondence with seller support. I've got a case right now where there's a client who's going through that KYC process, established British citizen, born in a different country, established businessman with a long, long track record here. But Amazon keeps on asking for new information around his birth certificate. You've supplied it in the original language. Now can you pay your 100 quid and get a certified translation to English? Oh yeah, well, thanks for sending that to us. Can you please provide the original certificate again? Can you do this as a scan rather than a photo? It goes on and on. And after 2 months, I mean, we're exhausting our escalation path with seller support. And there are ways that you can do that, but it's a long, long engagement. And hey, he was ready to go with everything else, with the product, with the packaging, with the labeling, with the branding, with Google advertising, a whole bunch of other stuff 2 months ago. It can be frustrating. Okay. Managing returns. I want to recommend to you a book called The Everything Store. This was written about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's effectively the unauthorized biography of Amazon and Jeff Bezos himself. It is a really, really interesting insight into Jeff Bezos, the former, well, the founder of Amazon, and until quite recently the chief exec of Amazon, and Amazon itself, and why they do things the way they do. Highly recommend that you read it, even though it is about 5 years out of date. Amazon wants to be the most customer-centric company on the planet. You've probably heard that term many, many times. So I'm sure you have had this experience buying on Amazon, and if there's the slightest thing that goes wrong, order doesn't get delivered on time, wrong product gets shipped, whatever the case might be, Amazon is very good with its customers in resolving that problem, whatever that problem is. On the seller side, remember how I said before, you don't own that customer. As a seller, Amazon owns that customer. So that means that you really don't have a chance to retain the customer if something goes wrong. Customer, I think as society, we now jump to the easy answer. It's easy to get on the app, press the button that says refund order, and go on with your life. As a customer, what I'm going to see is this email notification, refund initiated, refund initiated, refund initiated. My account gets debited, customer's account gets credited, customer has 45 days to ship that product back. Now, when that product goes back to Amazon, normally to Amazon, they will inspect it and they will make a quick determination whether it can be resold or not. If they feel that it can't be, something like the outer packaging might be a little bit dog-eared, they're going to send it back to you, and you're going to figure out if you can resell it or not. Maybe you can sell it through eBay, whatever the case might be. I sell fridge magnets, and a lot of them come back to me broken. I can't sell it at all, right? So directly into the bin. And by the way, I've paid for the product to get to the customer. I don't get that as a refund. I do get my commission back. I've also paid for the customer to send that product back to Amazon, and I've paid for that product, the damaged product, to come back to me for inspection. So you need to be prepared for that. In your costing model, in and amongst all the fees, you also need to calculate effectively spillage, effectively wastage. So there's some percentage calculations that you can put on top of that. But within your profit model, you need to be able to factor that in too. So we've covered some of these potential issues with returns. You need to be thinking about how are you going to dispose of products that you cannot resell. So I've offered you one solution there. If the product is slightly dog-eared, it could be acceptable for a different marketplace. We have these little toy cars and buses, and sometimes the outer packaging of the box is just a little bit bent. It's fine. The product is absolutely intact. It's otherwise fine. But that product is not good enough to sell on Amazon anymore because of that little dog ear. right? Imagine how you would feel if you received that sort of product and say, well, hang on, I was going to give this as a gift. That's not very nice. This is clearly used. No, not a great experience. One of our clients sells kitchen sinks, and they have it just in the regular manufacturing process. Occasionally, I think like 0.1% of their sinks will have a little dent, will have a little defect in it. What they do is they get that, they take pictures of the product, all around the product. They also take pictures of the defect, and they take care to get some sort of black marker and circle that defect and spell it out in an eBay listing. We've got this product, there's a slight defect, we don't think it's that great. The customer, we're telling you about what it is, and it'll be up to you to decide if that's an issue for you or not. Now, if it's other products that you can't resell, remember those fans that I was talking about? If I get that product back and it's just completely damaged, it's got a battery in it. What am I going to do with that? I've got to think through how I'm going to dispose of that product. Okay. Potential issues with returns as well. So there is customer fraud out there, and I've alluded to this before. Customer will claim that they've never received a product. Customer will claim that the neighbor's dog ate the product. Customer will claim that they got the red product instead of the blue product. Be prepared for that. Now, let me just ask those in the group who are going to be reselling someone else's product. Do you have confidence in your supplier, or indeed the manufacturer, that they will be able to support you? So what does that mean? If a customer has some weird question that they've asked of you, will you be able to get that information from your supplier, or material information, or intellectual property information, or whatever the case might be? Could you share that in the comment box, please? And Nazar, if you could let me know when those comments come through.
None so far. Just wait
Okay.
a couple of minutes more.
Sure. I've got just a handful of slides left, so I think we're pretty good on time, and we can go to Q&A a little bit after 12 o'clock. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide.
Okay.
And if there is anything that does come up, we can certainly discuss that in Q&A. Okay, so Amazon project responsibilities. Again, we've got a number of clients that are right through the spectrum of size of organization, anyone from micro businesses, startups, straight through to SMEs and small enterprise. When you're selling on Amazon, or indeed any e-commerce marketplace, you need to think about project responsibilities, and you can identify very quickly who's going to do what. Now, in organizations like ours, I'm an SME as well. Guess who does everything, right? I'm fortunate because I'm supported by a really, really good team. I've got a team of 4 people who are dedicated to various aspects of Amazon, 1 in the Philippines, 1 in Romania, and 2 in the US. So we can help with local markets. We can help with kind of follow the sun issues. The guy in the Philippines is available for the Japan, Singapore, and Australian hours. My guy in Romania is available for EMEA, Europe, Middle East, and Africa hours. And of course, with the States, we've got North America covered there. But you need to be thinking about who's going to do what, who's going to source the product, who's going to manufacture the product, who's going to check about product labeling, who's going to do the pricing, who's going to calculate what your margins are going to be, who's going to be doing all the inspection, all the auditing of product. If you are successful in sending 100 units of your product into Amazon for them to sell out, who's going to spend the time to check that Amazon actually received 100 units? There are workflows, there are screens that you can go through in that. There is timing, but it's something you need to diarize. Just on that one issue, Amazon don't give you the chance to check your shipments until 3 weeks after shipment. That's their SLA, their service level agreement. You get busy, things happen. 3 weeks later, did you remember to go in and check? And then it takes time to raise seller support tickets if you've got a few pieces missing. I've had cases where I send in 100 units and Amazon count 105 units. And I know it's 100. I'm pretty good at counting, and I've counted it myself, right? So where do they get the extra 5? And you kind of need to clear that up with Amazon just to make sure that all of your accounts are in order. So in a larger organization, you probably have someone who's in the warehouse who can look after some aspects. You've probably got someone in accounting, or maybe you have outsourced accounting who will be able to look at the sales and the cost structure and so on. But in smaller organizations, you don't necessarily. And hey, there's a lot going on. You've got your supplier relationships, you've got your other clients, you've got a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. Who's going to keep the ball rolling once you start it off and once you get that inertia going? So that's something definitely to think about. So in a lot of these cases, when I say you need to nominate, okay, well, that sounds very grandiose and very big, you know, allocate the marketing department, allocate the finance department. Well, it comes back to you and me being the finance department and the marketing department and the product development department and. But if you were to wear those different hats through the day, you would need a client-side project manager. So that'd be you, okay, running your relationship with Amazon. You would need an accounts person. So that could either be you or an accountant. Do check with your accountant, you know, once with a few sales, a couple dozen sales, a couple hundred sales a month, there's a lot that you can do manually, a lot that you can pull reports. It's quite easy to figure out. It's time consuming, but it's fundamentally easy. When you get into the hundreds and the thousands of sales, do the software integration. So this is something else that you need to consider. So we do a lot with Xero as an accounting package. So I pay monthly for that. I also pay for something called A2X, Amazon to Xero. We've also got a QuickBooks integration where there's a third-party tool that I pay $60 or $70 a month for, and that will take all of my Amazon reports and slot them into the appropriate accounts in Xero. And then it's my accountants who will have a look at that. Make sure you get accountants who understand Amazon as well. I've heard many, many horror stories of accountants who did not understand the Amazon world and have misallocated various accounts and so on. Make sure you get accountants who understand Amazon. That's really, really important because it is tricky. There are a lot of gotchas there. There are a lot of things that can go wrong. Who's going to be responsible for returns? Where are you going to get those returns? If you're operating out of home, what are you going to do with packages? Is it going to be, you know, we're quite fortunate because we live in an apartment building and there are packages that do come to my home, but reception will just deal with those and we'll bring them in and I can collect those packages as and when I'm available. If you live in a private home, then is that going to be the case? Are you going to be around to receive those packages? All these little bits of practicality that you need to be thinking of. You don't want to let packages stack up too much because if those returns are resellable, you want to turn that back into cash as quickly as you can. So think about that. So I'm kind of summarizing here third-party services that are available. So it would depend on what's right for you. Perhaps you need intellectual property protection, so a lawyer that will get you the right patents or the right trademarks or copyrights in place for your product, for your suite of products. Once you have that, you can participate in something called basically brand representation on Amazon, where you can demonstrate to Amazon that you own the intellectual property behind your product, and then Amazon will help you protect that. So we sell products that we have competition on because for these particular products, it's a free marketplace. Anyone can source that product, anyone can sell it as long as it's the same product. If you say that you're selling a red cup of certain configuration, then as long as that product is available to other sellers, they can sell that as well. A bit complicated there, but fine. If that's your design, if that's your patent, your trademark, Amazon will work with you to help you protect that so that no other sellers can sell that as well. And there are ways that can happen. It's a bit of cost. You need to decide if that's something that you want to do or not. but it is possible. There's product safety compliance. We're running into an issue now where we sell particular toys in the UK and the EU. They're CE marked, so Amazon EU is perfectly happy to sell them, but Amazon US is not because they don't recognize the CE mark. So we've had to take those offline, and it's crazy because we've been selling these toys for years now, but Amazon go through these rounds of implementing new policies and updating where sellers are against those policies. So we've had to take those products offline, take them out of Amazon warehouses, get the right US safety checks, and then once that's done, we'll get them back into Amazon warehouses. Fiscal representation and VAT services in the EU, if that's your intention to sell. We're not qualified to give any recommendations in that front or give any financial advice. So I'll just put it there as bullet points, but it is something that you're going to have to consider if you want to sell in the EU. I then go on to talk about automation tools. So we automate a lot. We automate, as I say, our accountancy, or the majority of the bookkeeping. We automate seller feedback. So we have tools that go out and will request feedback of our products and us as a seller. We automate bid management for advertising. So PPC, pay-per-click ads, that's called sponsored ads on Amazon. We spend between £2,000 and £3,000 a month on advertising. We know exactly what we're getting back for that. We know that for every £1 that we spend on advertising, we get about 12 pounds in gross sales. But that has to be automated. All the bids are constantly changing. We automate our pricing as well. So we have some products that will be, £5 today and £4.99 tomorrow and £5.09 the next day. So there's a couple of things there. We set the rules against how we're competing against our competition. We can decide to match their price to be a penny more than them, a penny less than them, and that's on a product by product basis, depending on what else is going on. But these tools automate those price changes probably 3,000 or 4,000 times a day. So that's something that I don't want to do manually, absolutely not. But again, we need a tool for that. So we spend probably the better part of about $700 a month on these various other tools that help manage the business and automate the business so that we can be looking at the more strategic issues. Okay, let me go on to, I've only got a couple slides left here. Getting set up for Amazon selling. It can take a minimum of 2 weeks to get everything ready and verified on Amazon. It should be straightforward, but I've given you an example earlier in this conversation about how it's not, how it's taking ages to onboard one of our clients. And he is not able, he can sell, but he can't have his money dispersed to him until he's cleared all these verification steps. Disbursement means getting the money back from Amazon. So as a customer will buy something, they'll pay 10 quid for something. Amazon will take their cut, will ship that product out if it's an FBA product, and have a certain amount that's left, let's say £6. That gets added to kind of a holding account, a client account, if you will. And then after 2 weeks, that money gets transferred to a bank account that you nominate. So we have a UK-based bank account for our GBP sales. And then we deal with an organization called World First for euros and Payoneer for all other currencies. So Amazon will pay to those bank accounts. They have to be very specific banks that Amazon approves of and recommends. They will pay for that. And the reason why I'm with those organizations is because they give much more attractive exchange rates on currencies. So I can choose when to convert my dollars to pounds, or when to repatriate my euro back into pounds. And they'll give wholesale rates rather than retail rates. So very attractive that way. Skipping down, I alluded to something earlier, the very last bullet point here. Tasks might not run in parallel. So we're talking here about getting VAT registration for Germany. You want to do that if you want to sell in the EU for a couple of reasons. One is that it's the largest market. Germany is the largest European Union market. So a lot of sellers are putting their stock into Germany. But unlike here, where you register for VAT when you hit a certain threshold, whatever it is, 85, 86,000 pounds. There are thresholds in the EU, 18,000 euro, 30,000 euro, depending on the country. But as far as Amazon is concerned, the moment you put a single unit of stock into one of their warehouses in the EU, that's where you have to register for that country's VAT. So forget about the threshold limit. It's a single item of stock in a warehouse there. And of course, if you're sending in pallets, then it's going to be that much stock. In order to get a German VAT number, you need a German trading certificate. I forget what it's called. In order to do that, it takes about 3 months to get that certificate. In order to do that, you need a company's house. It's effectively a health check on your company. Now, the price has come down. It used to be 50 quid, but I think it's now 15 pounds to get. And it's a physical paper certificate. It'll take about 10 days to get that. So from the moment that you're on Amazon, where you indicate to Amazon and the third-party company called Avalara that you want to trade in the EU, and particularly on Germany, you then need to get your company's house certificate. You need to wait for that. You then need to send that off to Germany. You need to wait for that business certificate to come through, and then you get your VAT number. So those guys out there who are saying, you know, set up your account today and you'll be selling tomorrow, not so much. So what does this mean? This is my last slide. What does this mean? If you are interested in selling on Amazon, first of all, make sure that you've got an appetite to handle all of these compliance issues that they're throwing at you. Huge opportunity there, but it's not for the faint of heart. It is unlikely that you'll be making your first sale for at least a couple of weeks, probably a month, and that's going to be in your home market. There's a lot of setup that's involved that I haven't even covered in this presentation. For foreign markets, start thinking about month 3, month 6. It is incredibly difficult to ship product into those markets right now, partly because of Brexit, partly because of the pandemic. We've seen freight costs go up by about 10-fold in the last year, and ships getting stuck in the Suez don't make things any easier. Okay, so second bullet point, don't believe the hype, but do go into this with your eyes wide open. Okay, ending on that slightly more challenging point. Shall we wind up there? I see it's just gone 12 o'clock. Shall we wind up there and go into Q&A? There's probably a lot more that I could be talking about, but I'd love to hear some of your questions and experiences. Nazar, over to you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for a wonderful webinar. If you could just go back to your previous slide, please. I have a question for you on chat. Reshma says, we distribute chocolates from Ireland in a gift box. We have uploaded the products and there are issues with the form and no one from Amazon support has come back to me since the 15th of July 21. Any comments on that, please?
Yes, I've got several comments. So first of all, thank you for that question. Is it Northern Ireland or Republic?
Doesn't say so. Reshma, if you can answer that, please.
Hi, we're based in the UK, but we distribute all produce from Ireland.
So which is that, by that you mean a Republic of Ireland, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So you're getting into Brexit issues, you're getting into divergence issues. I won't, I'll be happy to take your questions offline for that and check with one of my colleagues who is actually an expert in Brexit matters. So let me park that just for the moment. But in terms of not hearing from Amazon for a week, that is absolutely shocking. That is absolutely typical as well. Seller support, insists that we have to respond to clients and customers within 24 hours and give a sensible answer, not just something like, oh, thanks very much for your question, for dealing with it. And yet we don't get that same courtesy from Amazon themselves, and that's something that I've always found frustrating for several years now. So there are a few things that you can do. First of all, I think that we should have an offline conversation about the specific issue and what we've done so far. But in general, there are ways of escalating that. you can go back to seller support. Hopefully this is all right if you've raised a ticket in writing, and say, look, we really need you to escalate this to, gosh, I forget what the term is. I think it's a leader. I will find out the right term for you and come back to you. But effectively, there is a level of seniority within seller support that you're saying, hey, look, I'm not getting any response.
So I've been told from seller support has gone to product management team, and that's been also a week and nothing's come back. I chase every single day. As you said, we have to go back to them 24 hours. We get nothing in return.
Yeah. Did they give you a separate email address in product management?
No.
Okay, that's interesting.
They say it's passed on, but I don't really believe anything anymore from Amazon.
I understand. Can we have a conversation about this offline? I've got some ideas, but it'll be specific
Sure.
to your case. Yeah. So
Thank you.
I'll make sure you get that link. Or now, sir, I'll be sending you the link, and perhaps you can forward that on for my calendar.
Yes, of course.
We
Yes, of
can
course.
have that chat.
One more question. I mean, let's continue the chat now for another 8-10 minutes.
Sure.
Then we can basically switch on to my slides to end it.
Sure.
Okay, one more question here. How do you go about, and that's again from Aban, how do you go about choosing a successful product to sell on Amazon? And what areas or niches would you avoid, if any?
Yeah. Okay. Great question. Great question. So there are a number of things that you have to keep in mind. I would avoid. So let me answer the second part first. I would avoid complicated products. What do I mean by that? Anything that has a battery in it or some other hazardous material, cleaning supplies, for example. I would avoid anything that can be spilled, anything that's sticky, like the maple syrup. I would avoid anything that can break easily. So you've got the concern about product coming from your manufacturer and getting to you safely. You've got the concern about the product perhaps going into FBA, if that's your chosen route. You've got the concern in a warehouse itself, so you don't want someone knocking it over and having it fall off the shelf and break. You've got it going back to the customer. And indeed, if the product has successfully gone through that entire journey, and the customer doesn't like it, it's got to come back to you. So it's got to do full circle back to you. So don't invite problems with a breakable product or anything, anything that could spill easily. I would avoid anything that would attract customer fraud. So electronics, tablets, phones, TVs, that sort of thing. It's so easy to have a customer buy it, and then you would be the source of, or you'd be the target of fraud, rather, where a customer comes back and says, "Oh, I never got it. Amazon refund me." They debit your account, and you're saying, "Well, hang on, where's my money? I'm now out of pocket for, maybe potentially a couple $100 for this thing that was sold." I would avoid anything that's branded. So, all the big brands like, Disney and, any sporting brand or anything like that, unless you had written permission directly from the brand owner, not a third party, not a representative or anything like that, directly from the brand owner. But those larger brands are probably represented anyhow on Amazon. I would avoid products that have a lot of competition on them. So 2-3 years ago, we used to resell media. One of our suppliers supplied the likes of Sainsbury's and Tesco, these big promotions, spend £20 and you get your free PS4 game or whatever it is. So he had the license to get that product into those grocery stores. At the end of the promotion, there'd be product left over. He needed to do something with that and sell them on Amazon, on eBay, whatever. Some products sold really, really well because there'd be competition, 20, 30 other competitors on it. So fine, we'll just clear that off. Others just had far too much competition. So it's about what your risk profile is and tolerance for the other competitors. Because don't forget, just like my mask and flag example, having competition also invites hijackers as well. So that's the second half of the question. The first half is a lot of people talk about selling product where you have a passion or particular interest. I don't really subscribe to that. I would more subscribe to the selling the products that have a market demand. But certainly having a passion or an interest will help you understand the nature of that product and customers' relationships with that product. So for example, if a customer does have a query about that product, we touched on that a couple of slides ago. If they do have a question, you'll be able to speak from experience. You'll be able to say, oh, this, I don't know, this watch strap. Yes, of course, I know how to use it, and I know exactly what you're talking about. And well, have you tried this and this and this on it? There are tools out there as well. I can recommend a tool called Helium 10, Helium, so just like the gas, Helium 10, number 10, 10, and also something called Jungle Scout, and there's another one called Zone Guru, Zonguru, and there's several others out there. You have to play with them, and most of them give you a free, trial, 7 days, and then they charge your credit card or whatever it is. But that will give you an opportunity to play with different products and play with different ASINs. An ASIN, ASIN, is a unique number on Amazon. So if you've browsed any sort of Amazon product, someplace in that search bar in the URL bar, there'll be amazon.co.uk/ a bunch of other stuff, and then a series of letters and numbers that start with B for Bravo. So I think it's 8 characters long. You capture that, you put them into one of these research products, Zone Guru, Helium 10, or Jungle Scout, or any of the others, and you can see market demand for them. You can see projections on how that would sell. Now, you may not be able to get that exact product, but at least you can get a sense for what's popular. The other thing to do is have a look at Amazon predictive search. So go onto an Amazon screen, and in that search bar, type in a word, whatever your interest is: hat, dog food, dishwasher, whatever it is, and you can see the matches, right? So you might type in hat, you have the option for blue hat or sports hat or camping hat or whatever the case is. And on Amazon, you'll be able to see the top ranking products. You can kind of get a sense for what is selling. Have a look at the reviews as well. So first of all, to see how the product is being reviewed: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars, 5 being best, 1 being the worst. But there's an unwritten rule of thumb that is, multiply the number of reviews by 10, and you'll get roughly the number of sales that product has enjoyed. You find a blue hat, it's got 1,000 reviews, it's probably sold 10,000 units. Very, very loosely. So that will give you a sense for whether it's a popular seller or not. You then need to figure out how long it's been selling for. So 10,000 over the last year is different from 10,000 over the last 10 years, right? But that's the starting point for you.
Thank you, Chris. I have a question for you. You mentioned a couple of times about products or accounts being hijacked. It sounds a bit sort of frightening. What would you suggest to the audience here, and to us? How would you try to prevent that? What happens? How do they hijack us or our accounts, and how could we try to prevent it?
Sure. Thanks, Nasser. So there are a couple of approaches there. One is where there's a very sinister approach where perhaps a competitor has decided to somehow compromise your sales. So we've seen the example where we've listed a flag, but someone has decided to change the image from a flag to a face mask. There are automated tools that they can use. There are ways that they can upload bulk amounts, thousands of different listings on a spreadsheet, and just get their product out there, or somehow destabilize your relationship. Or maybe it's an honest mistake. They had, in that ASIN number, they typed in the wrong one and just happened to target my product. Don't really believe that, but anyway, there we go. You also have issues where other sellers, competing sellers, will do a few things. They will drive traffic to your sales. So they will invest in Google advertising or social media advertising and drive traffic to a particular unit. You're going to say, great, this is fantastic. I'm going to the moon on this one. But Amazon algorithms will pick that up and will say, hey, normally you're selling like 2 units a day or 5 units a day, and all of a sudden today you sold 1,000. What's going on? Something strange here is happening. You're also going to have sellers that will leave very poor or very good reviews all of a sudden. So you know how on Amazon you check your product reviews, you've got the verified purchase and the unverified purchase? They're going to do a lot of unverified purchase entries where if there's a whole bunch of 1 stars, for every 1 star you get, it's going to cost you about 10 more reviews. That's 100 more sales to weigh that out, to counterbalance. So 10 positive reviews will probably counter out 1 negative review. Okay, so if you start flooding with negative reviews, then your product has serious problems there. If you start flooding with positive reviews, Amazon is then turning around and saying, "What's going on? You've got your friends making all sorts of false positive reviews on this." Let me just park that side for one. So that's where you're part of a sinister attack from another seller. You also have Amazon bots, and I alluded to this earlier in the presentation, where Amazon love to automate this. And you are going to, if you read that book, The Everything Story, you're going to find out the rationale behind this. So it's great. There's a lot of AI behind Amazon that will help you, and that will help optimize, and will suggest new products that you can sell, and so on. But they also make mistakes. So we had, I'm sure you've seen them in tourist shops before, we have these keychains that are sort of a round metal disc, and inside they've got a little spinny thing. You can kind of flick them and they're going to go spinning around, a little bit of a toy type thing. You probably remember the fidget spinner craze of a couple of years ago. Well, after a while, Amazon said, look, we don't want this. There's too many safety issues. We don't want fidget spinners at all. We are going to send around a bot that will figure out who is selling a fidget spinner and take those listings down. One day, we, who are selling one of those keychains that have nothing to do with a fidget spinner, but the word spin is in the title, I got an email notification that said, this listing has been taken offline. Series of emails then saying, we have arranged to return your stock. So I had about 400 units worth of stock. I then get charged 60p a unit to have that stock returned to my address. It took me 2 months to resolve and finally get an apology from Amazon seller support to say, oops, we made a mistake. We've had a human go through this, and we realized that you're not selling fidget spinners, you're selling a legitimate product. So sorry about that. No compensation. Okay. Coming back to how do you protect yourself? First of all, make sure your account health is very, very clean. So Amazon, one of the earlier slides in this presentation, I showed you basically an account health slide, and that shows how we have a textbook clean account. If there's a notification that comes out from Amazon, jump on it straight away. Make sure your account is clean at all times, because if you get suspended, it could be a permanent suspension, and there is no way to get back. There are ways.
Chris, I have a couple of more questions which we need to go through. So
Sorry. I do tend to talk a lot about it.
I have another question from Arban. If you are just starting off and only have 2 or 3 products, would you recommend creating a website, as most startups tend to do? Would you recommend creating a website which would drive traffic to Amazon?
So yes, I'd
quick answer, please. 1 minute answer.
Oh my God, no. I'd recommend a website, but not for that reason. Yes, create it. But if you ever want to change something on your product detail page, you want to change the photo, you want to correct a spelling mistake, whatever it is, Amazon will lock that listing after a period of time, and they're going to say, fine, we can change it, but point to another website someplace on the internet that shows the correct information. And if you control that website, if you've created that, then that's very easy for you to do. You can drive traffic as well, but that is another discussion about how much you're going to pay and how you're going to generate traffic and so on and so forth. Remember, you might say that that budget is better spent on Amazon's own PPCs, their own sponsored ads, because they've already got the traffic.
Okay. I mean, once again, an opportunity for you, Arban, to talk Chris on a one-to-one basis. I have a question here from Ruth Ann Lynch, who's the director of the Pallet Yard, and she buys and sells secondhand pallets. Been doing so for several years, and is a very big player in the circular economy.
Great.
Her question is: do we have a UK contact at Amazon itself to purchase pallets from them? That's the pallets that they use to transport goods and services will they be open to companies like her doing business with them?
That's really interesting. Can we take that offline? I have a contact in London, and I'll be happy to email that individual. As you can imagine, these people are just up to their eyes with everything. But I'd be happy to give it a go and see if we could open a conversation there.
That's great, Chris. Many thanks. Any help you can offer Ruth and the others would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We have time for at least one more question. Any more questions? You can either raise your hand, unmute yourself. Okay, so we have another question here on chat. No, it just says yeah, thank you, Chris, from Ruth Ann, which is great. Or unmute yourself and just ask Chris a question. Otherwise, we've got a couple of more slides to finish off today's excellent show. So,
thank you.
Okay. I can't see anybody else. I think it's great. Can we then move on, please, Chris?
Yeah, great. Thank you. So
thank you.
Go here.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Again, this is part of the Park Royal schedule. Hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I have today. It's quite unique hearing from a real expert in their field. So thank you very much, Chris. And tomorrow we plan to send out the webinar in recording, along with a Calendly link for you, for every one of you, each and every one of you, to book a 15 minutes session with him. So expect that email, hopefully with you by tomorrow afternoon. Just want to draw your attention in September, the highlighted ones. We've got 3 sessions to do with procurement. If you want to get fit to bid, if you want to enhance your bidding skills, your tender skills, then we've got 3 fantastic workshops. On the 8th, we've got a panel one. That's the 8th of September. We've got a panel session, and followed up by 2 sessions by Neil, who is our expert, our resident expert on bids and tenders. Can I request you for the next one, please, Chris?
Sure.
That's the second last slide. Okay, so the 8th of September is quite unique. It's a panel one where you will have an opportunity to meet, to talk, and ask lots of questions from local authorities. We have people from Brent, Ealing, and Hammersmith and Fulham councils. We got someone senior from Transport for London who'll be talking about essentially looking at what they mean by a buyer's perspective. What are the basic amounts you can a tender for, etc. We got someone from the construction industry trading board talking about grants. If you're in the construction business, if you're in the circular economy, if you're in the supply chain, what grants for retraining yourself for your forklift workers, for your heavy duty workers, for your truck drivers, what exactly you need. And most of that training is basically, it's free of charge. We got somebody from HS2 coming, Matt Hadlington. He's a senior director, and he'll be there basically talking about what opportunities, not only for construction, but for all sorts of different sorts of businesses to attend and to be able to bid for contracts with HS2. Then you're going to have to bear with me for 8-10 minutes again, and followed up by a panel in open Q&A session. This is quite unique. This is free of charge. We are working very hard to bring all this together. I would urge you to attend. Next slide, please. Thank you, Chris. And then followed up on the 15th and the 22nd of September by Neil. Some of you have been through this. This is being refocused, regurgitated, and we're going to make it a lot more interactive. If you haven't, you must attend this. Neil is an expert. He has worked with large and with small companies, much like Chris has. He's a subject expert, and it's a fantastic event. These are 2 of our best-selling webinars. So many thanks again. And the last slide, just a holding slide. And once again, many thanks to you, Chris, for a wonderful session. Many thanks to you all for attending. Look forward to seeing you at the next one, and await the webinar recording and the Calendly invitation from Chris tomorrow. Feel free to contact him. Chris is very knowledgeable, very helpful. And if you've got any more questions, we have another minute or so now. You can put them up. Okay.
While the questions are coming through, Nazar, I just want to take the opportunity to thank you very much and your team, and certainly the other partners in the ecosystem for inviting me today, and certainly to the audience. Thank you very much, and I very much appreciate the questions that you've provided to me over the course of the presentation. So again, still happy to take some, or indeed through the link offline later on.
Thank you very much, everybody. So I'm going to end the session now. Have a great day. It's still a bright and a sunny day. Enjoy the sunshine, and many thanks, Chris. And I'll see you soon again. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All the best. Bye. Thank you.